Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin alongside Asukwa James. We missed him yesterday, but he's here today.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
Indeed, great to have you. Okay, we got a lot of work to do today, I imagine, even though it's just the one subject. We're talking about the Executive Order 10 of 2020. Did I say that a bit like an American? 2020. Never mind the 2020 American thing. Executive Order 10, President Muhammadu Buhari's Executive Order number 10 of 2020, and he signed that into law last week. Well, we have we'll be joined by Chief Dr. Fasi Yusuf. He's a lawyer. He's a communications expert, and we also have with us on the phone. Fasi will be joining us on Skype, and we have on the phone SSA to the President on Public Affairs, talking about Mr. Ajuri Ngelale. Good morning, Ajuri.
Good morning to you, Uncle Yori.
Okay, great to have you. Thank you very much for making time. We'll come to you. We will come to you later. And good morning to you, Chief Dr. Fasi.
Good morning. Good
Okay,
morning.
great to have you. Well, maybe let me start. Let me start with you because you're a lawyer, and I wanted to sort of get. I've been hearing. Well, first of all, what is the Executive Order 10 of 2020? It's really to, compel states to, if they are going to be a bit headstrong about it, put on first charge. Not that I imagine why they would want to be. Put on first charge, the allocation to the judiciary and the legislature, and that includes even at the federal level. So let me ask you, Fasi, why is there even a need for the president to come at the subject matter by reason of an executive order? Because it's in the Constitution. That's the way it's supposed to be. There's supposed to be a separation of powers.
I didn't get the question quite well. Can you call me on phone so that I can...
Okay. Meanwhile, Ajuri, I get you, Fasi. I see that we're running into a bit of trouble. Ajuri, I believe you heard the question.
All right, so let me go ahead and respond just by saying that it's very important to note, Uncle Yori, that this process is not, it did not start in the president's office, but it has concluded in the president's office. And what I mean by that is, you'll recall some time ago, of course, there was a constitution amendment exercise during which the issues of autonomy of the state legislatures and judiciary came up.
That's right.
Of course, it was now approved roundly by various state houses of assembly across the country as part of the amendment process, that indeed these were problems that needed to be addressed in terms of constitutional amendment. So, of course, naturally, the president, as a champion for social justice, and seeing that this is a type of restructuring effort that will assist the poor in terms of access to justice and in terms of making sure that they have a system that is based on equity, right, and not based on who you know and how much money you have and how much power you have, he was more than willing to sign it into law, and he did. Now, with this executive order, what you have essentially is a crystallization, a consolidation of that effort, and a really clear articulation of how that effort will now be applied. So now, let's look at the content of it. First of all, the president has said, look, I'm going to lead by example on this. So in 2014, you had the allocation, the federal allocation to the judiciary, the federal judiciary, was only 68 billion in 2014. The president has nearly doubled that as his own initiative. He nearly doubled that to 110 billion in 2020. So he's not telling the states or trying to compel the states to do what he is not doing. He's doing it, and he is doing it. In terms of the legislature, the federal legislature, we often get accused or criticized for giving too much funds to the National Assembly to carry out their works because of the important oversight functions that they have. We're never accused of giving them too little to do their function. That is not the case in the states, and that is why the president has said, look, if these things are not going to be done, by initiative because it's the right thing to do, then we will, of course, step in and assist the states to do what is right in the interest of their people. So the way it's going to work is, in specific terms, there's now going to be a mandate for, when state legislatures and state executives are forming their annual budgets, there's now going to be a special committee set up by mandate now as a result of this executive order that you will now have a budget committee in the states comprising the Commissioner of Finance of the state, Accountant General of the state representing the executive side, a representative of the state budget office, all the chief registrars of the state high court, Sharia Court of Appeal, and customary court of appeal to represent the state judiciaries, and then, of course, the clerk to the State House of Assembly and the secretary of the State Judicial Service Committee or Commission that will all be part of it to represent also the state legislature. So all three arms are going to be, represented in this committee that will be part of forming the budget, as opposed to the situation before, where they could literally decide, in terms of the executive, almost single-handedly to say, look, because we have the power of the purse over the legislature, they're going to do what we want. And so we can afford to give kobo, just small kobo to the state judiciary so that they will have to come back begging for whatever it is that they want, and then by that power that we will now have over them, we can now say, okay, with this judgment on this issue, this judgment on this issue, they're able to procure judgments very easily, and this has been a trend. It's not a PDP or APC issue. This is a structural issue that has to do with the overall concentration of power in the hands of state
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ajuri. I get you. Stay with us, please. Let me see if the line has got any better with Dr. Fasi Yusuf. Fasi, can you hear me now? Fasi, is it any better? Well, well, I can see that we're still working things out. Dr. Fasi Yusuf, maybe you need to have. Did you get any earbuds? If you could get hold of a pair of earbuds, it might help a lot. I'm so sorry that okay, so we'll come back to you as soon as, well, because now, as you know, not a lot of people are happy. When I say happy, when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about legislators, even members of the public the way they understand it, and thank you for your very, broad outline of the provisions of this executive order. But at the end of the day, the Constitution actually enshrines a separation of powers. Now, what is money is everything. And if you don't have money, I don't know the extent of your power. So why there has been a difficulty in applying, Ajuri, are you with me?
I'm with you, I'm listening to you.
Apparently there's been some sort of an issue, conforming to the intentions, I would dare say, of the Constitution drafters. Now the president has brought this executive order to remove any gray areas or any contentious areas. But as I was saying, a lot of people are happy with it. There are some, of course, who are also dissenting, saying that it's a constitutional matter. And the president, they say, might actually be stepping outside of his powers in writing this executive order, like a shortcut. A constitutional matter, if you're going to go and amend the Constitution, you know what we have to go through, and that an executive order as a shortcut might not be acceptable to maybe purists, constitutional law purists.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's important to note that the executive order is it's in compliance with Section 121, subsection 3 of the Constitution as amended. That the president has conferred on him under Section 5 of the Constitution that gives him the power of execution and maintenance of the Constitution. When the Constitution was amended, right, according to the section I mentioned earlier, you now had, in very clear terms, it laid out what the autonomy of the state legislature and judiciary would entail. And that is with the clarification that was gained. That was the whole intention of the amendment exercise and why it was signed into effect and why it is now being enforced as a result of this executive order. So the idea of overstepping doesn't come into it, unless, of course, you may be hearing from a few analysts who probably are representing the interests of a few state governors who are concerned about the fact that they no longer will have the kind of, over-concentrated power.
Talking of which,
over these other very critical
indeed, and speaking of which, this governors forum will be meeting today. Actually, the governors forum will indeed be meeting today, I believe. And this is one of the things that, among others, of course, that they say that we hear that they'll be considering. You spoke about the governors, and I just wanted to get it in there that, as a matter of fact, first of all, if all were to be hunky-dory, you would imagine that what are the governors considering? It's a done deal, but they say they are considering. But I'm interested in the fact that should there be governors or other high officials who would want to stand in the way of this, then you can't do that because the Attorney General has been empowered, to let it be deduct it, from the state's allocations. Would you like to talk about that?
State legislatures and judiciaries have the kind of checks and balance authority that the Constitution intended for them to have, and this is going to enforce that with very concrete measures that are incontrovertible.
Yeah, and did I say Attorney General? Well, yeah. The Attorney General has said that I think the Accountant General is allowed, to actually deduct
from source.
From source.
Exactly.
From source.
So these are, if I can just get in very quickly on the specific provisions that are very, very key here. You mentioned one, which is very important. That's really the enforcement mechanism to say, look, there's no way around this thing. Anybody who will not do the right thing will now be compelled by the power of the Constitution, not by the power of the President, by the power of the Constitution, upon the amendment of the Constitution, to ensure that these things are done. So yes, if any of these payments or allocations to the judiciary, to the legislature, as at when due, are not paid, then, of course, the consolidated revenue fund of the states will be deducted as a first-line charge, that amount. But it's very critical
sorry, Ajuri, you're going to continue, of course. Thank you very much. You're going to continue, but I've got to go on a quick break. So stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. We're looking at the Executive Order number 10 of 2020, signed by President Muhammadu Buhari last week, and it's to give Philip to the constitutional provisions that guarantee the separation of powers by making sure that they have that funds go to them. What is this? Autonomy. That there is financial autonomy, which we imagine is what the drafters of the Constitution would have had in mind, but it hasn't quite worked like that. And now along comes Executive Order 10. We still have with us Ajuri Ngelale on the phone and Dr. Fasi Yusuf on Skype. Let's see if we've been struggling a bit, but okay, Dr. Fasi, hi in there. Now, not everybody is in agreement. Well, I don't know, it's a done deal already anyhow, unless lawyers want to go to court. But maybe I should ask what you think of the Executive Order number 10 of 2020. Yes, I am, Fasi.
Okay. Personally, and I think in sync with corporate governance, I think it's the right way to go because in everything we do, especially in a democracy, everything must be done transparently. Not only that, it must be manifestly seen to be transparent. Well, the issue at the federal level is settled. That's section 81, subsection 3 on the distribution of any credit to the judiciary, the National Assembly, and the federal government. And I cannot understand the hue and cry at the state level because it's simply meant to promote accountability. By the time you hold the judiciary and the local government by the people and you control their destiny, it raises a lot of doubt as to the credibility of government because corporate governance has to do with doing things in a manner that is reflective of transparency, accountability, and probity. So to that extent, I will support and I endorse that executive order. And don't forget that the National Assembly tried in the past to to amend the Constitution, but most of the states were not too happy about it, and I think they killed that. I think the committee of the National Assembly went around the states of the Federation. It was some houses of assembly that approved that bill, went back on the approval. And I think it's just conferring too much power on the governors to determine the fate of the judiciary at the state level and the various local governments, because too many things are happening at that level that we'll be wondering whether it is necessary, because most state governments see the local government as an appendage of the ministry. We have a ministry of local government controlling the activities of the local government, managing the affairs of the local government, and you'll be wondering, what are these elected chairmen?
Some of the, some of the, is objections the word, but some of the, those who are not saying that, oh, this is a wonderful development. Some of those are saying that it's open to abuse. And here we are, we're saying that the governors, it's possible for you to categorize some of their activities as possibly being in the nature of abuse. But couldn't the same also happen if funds were to go directly to the judiciary and the legislature?
What I expect that they will do, because if you talk about abuse will be from any quarter, from any perspective, from any body. So it's not only at the local government level that we have abuses or misuse of power or financial recklessness. At the state level too, and even at the federal. So what we need to do is to put in place checks and balances to see how funds will be managed, and to look at the various bodies that are constitutionally empowered to monitor performance. Because local government cannot be isolated from the rest of the society. It's a function of the society that most of us, we are not accountable. Most of us lack probity, and in the society, the lack of transparency is more or less the order of the day. So nobody could win anybody by asserting that accountability is not available at the local government level. What about at the state level? What about at the federal? It's everywhere.
Okay.
What about within the judiciary? So it's everywhere. But concerning
okay.
Going to be able to run his own affairs.
All right, Fassi. Thank you for staying with us. Just stay with us. We still have Ajuri Ngilale, SSA to the President on Public Affairs on the line, and Azukwo, who is in the studio with me, has a question for you, Ajuri.
Yes, please.
Okay, Ajuri, I know that the state governors will be meeting today, and possibly they might be heading to the court. How prepared is the presidency, to take on the governors when they go to the court? And that is if, because I know most of them are already saying that that particular section in the Constitution is a constitutional matter. The president does not have the power to legislate on it. Then does the president have the political will to implement this? Because it seems as if the president is trying to take away food from the mouth of the state governors.
Well, let me just say, my brother, thank you very much, my colleague, for this important question. Really what you're looking at is a situation where, yes, it's true that, of course, the governors are meeting today on this issue, amongst many other issues, by the way.
Yes.
But this is not about unnecessary antagonism and political drama or political theater. The president has no time for that. He has no interest in that at all. This is about administration. And this is about ensuring social justice, making sure that everybody has equitable access to the dividends of democracy. That means that state legislatures will, instead of passing pension bills that are paying out billions of naira to build houses and mansions for former governors and all these other things, they can now be used, instead of having that pressure, that financial pressure on them, they can now be using their time and resources to hopefully make laws that will better the lives of their constituents and their people. For example, when we talk about the judiciary, and again, I want to affirm, this is not an APC-PDP matter. This is a structural matter of over-concentration of power in the hands of state executives. When you have a situation where state governors consistently, or regardless of party, again, they can go and get a judgment on a day, on a single day, in one day, from start to finish, get a judgment on political matters that are of interest of the state governor. And we see it consistently across parties, across states. You now know that there's a problem. You now know that there are state judiciaries pocketed by governors. That is not healthy for the democracy. So
Ajuri,
their own terms and looking at the sustainability and health of our democracy moving forward.
Ajuri, I hear you. But something you said just reminded me. You talked about the concept of an over-concentration of powers in the hands of the governors. As you must be aware, even our president, there are those who think that there's an over-concentration of powers in the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's been described as the most powerful president in the world.
Look, this is the situation, Uncle Yori, is when right now, if we're talking about this executive order, let's just play devil's advocate for a moment and say that somehow this executive order is some sort of an abuse or something like that, right? It would be an abuse. In order to abuse, right, it has to be somebody who is benefiting unduly from a process that has been manipulated against another party, right? In this case, if the federal government, by constitutional amendment or whatever the case was now able to say, look, instead of state governors determining the funds that will go to state judiciaries and state legislatures, it will be National Assembly that will be determining that, or it will be Federal Executive Council that will be determining that. Then you will now say, wait, it's federal government, it's the federal executive or federal legislature that is now taking the authority away from the state governors and potentially can now control state legislatures and state judiciaries.
I got you, Ajuri. I got you. I got to go on another commercial break. Thank you for staying with us. I've got to go on another commercial break. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. We've got different sort of challenges on the two lines that we're using. One is the Skype platform. The other is the phone line. Ajuri is on the phone, and sometimes there seems to be a lag, so there's a bit of a difficulty. So Ajuri can't hear when we're trying to interject, but it all worked out well. Just to put to explain that to you, Ajuri. Thank you very much for staying with us. We also have Dr. Fassi on the Skype line. I want to see if it's gotten any better. Fassi, we're back to you. Now, can you understand when some legal minds are objecting to this on account of the constitutionality or otherwise of Executive Order 10? Okay, it's going, that thing is started again. Firstly, let me just try one more time. There are lawyers who, legal opinion that is saying that it overreaches the Constitution. Meanwhile, I've heard that a one-time MBA president, Olisa Agbako by SAN, has said that actually what the president has done has sort of, giving teeth to a judgment I think he obtained yes, against the Attorney General of the Federation. Did you hear my comment question?
Dr. Fassi.
Dr. Fassi? Oh dear. Oh dear. It's one of those days. Okay. Ajuri, my brother, thank you very much for staying with us. And so, Asukwa has a question. In fact, you were answering Asukwa's question.
Yes.
As we went away.
Yes.
And he didn't. He didn't quite land.
Because I was asking about the political will if the president.
And that was when I had come on with when you were talking about over concentration of power. I said There are even those who are complaining that Mr. President
Exactly.
too, there's an over-concentration of powers in the hands of Mr. President.
Yes.
Right. So this is the thing. It's about how you, ultimately, it's about how you exercise your powers, right?
Sure.
So, for example, now, at every point in time, the president has made very clear, he has always laid out in very clear terms where he derives his power from. It's not a situation where he's walking into State House of Assembly, impeaching governors with a third of the people who are sitting there and all of that. This is where we've gone beyond that era. We come out and we say this is where the powers are derived from constitutionally, and then the decisions are taken from there. I want to just say very quickly, if you look at, let's just use the NFIU guidelines, for example, the establishment last June 1st, right, which has now gone into effect. There was a similar pushback from the state governors at the time that why will you be giving local governments their funds direct and all of that when in fact we had an arrangement that had been existing since 1999 and all of that. There was a lot of fight, a lot of back and forth behind the scenes that people were not seeing, but the president stuck to his guns and said, I'm going to do this because it's in the interest of our people, and these are the people who we are elected to represent. And for us, that is the same, if you know the composition of this executive order and the constitutional provisions that it is enforcing, you would now know that there's no way that that in any form or fashion that this thing benefits unduly the federal government of Nigeria or the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This just gives autonomy to those bodies so that they can make independent decisions on the basis of what is in the interest of justice, number one, and in the interest of the lawmaking activities of the state legislatures in such a way that they can most effectively represent their constituents without being unduly pressurized and subjugated by state governors. And I think there are many state governors. I think we should be fair. Not all state governors are pushing against this thing. There are some state governors in this country that are constitutionalists who understand that the way things have been going on is not quite the way they should have been going on, and actually support what the president is doing because they're purists.
You're right.
But there are some that do not, naturally. But for us, where our concern is making sure that those who elected those state governors to office, those who elected the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to office, that those individuals and the citizens of this country are those who are going to benefit from this order, and that's what's important to us.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Ajuri. And just before letting go of you, I just had to make the comment. You had to get that in there about impeaching a governor with 1/3 of the members in place.
No, I'm not taking shots. So that's just the reality. That's where we're coming from. I was just using that as a case in point to say, look, we're coming from somewhere within this same Fourth Republic, within this democracy. We have seen abuse of power, and that is not what you're getting from President Muhammadu Buhari. That is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I want to thank you very much, as always, Ajuri Ngilali, Senior Special Assistant to the President.
Please, everybody, stay safe out there.
All right. Bye-bye now. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to open up the phones and hear, from home, what you guys think about it as well. We still have Dr. Fassi. I know we have Dr. Fassi on the line, and I know that one way or the other, we're going to get on top of that the technical whatever it is with that Skype line. So Fassi, thank you very much, for staying with us, and also thank you for standing up to the challenge. So the question I had asked before was that could you understand why some legal minds have anything against this executive order? Because as I said, the simpletons would probably say that it's all about enhancing deepening democracy, funds going direct to the judiciary, going direct to the legislature. So what's there not to like about it, Fassi?
Honestly, ordinarily, there should be no ulabalu about this matter. It's just that we are honestly legalistic in this country. The federal government or the president is trying to do something that will promote accountability, transparency, and probity. But some lawyers, they will not look at the constitutional aspect. They want to look at the status quo. On the other hand, in this particular case, we are saying this is expedient. This is expedient. entity. Then some are saying that no, we must look into the constitution. And I remember when we were trying to have a constitutional amendment, the governors, most governors killed the amendment. They didn't allow amendment to see the light of the day, simply because they want to control the funds of the local government, or because they want to pocket the judiciary.
Okay. One moment, Fassi. Thank you very much. One moment, please.
Yes.
Mr. George in Ikeja, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yeri.
Thank you for calling in. Good morning.
Thank you. Uncle Yeri, I don't see anything wrong in that executive order. If for anything, there will be more accountability and a reduction in the misuse of funds. You and I know that funds meant for local governments, majority of these governors do not allow it to reach the local government chairman. If it gets there, less than a half of it is what they get.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't have been so. That is why most local governments today in Nigeria are more or less impotent. They can't do anything. They want that the legislature and the judiciary will become financially independent. It's imperative. We cannot dispute that. But my worry, Uncle Yori, is that financial independence for the legislature is one. Actual independence is another. These governors are the ones who select who should go there in their states, who should be nominated for the election as a member of the state legislature. They still have one form of control or the other over what they do in that assembly.
Yeah.
That is why the governor is always having the assembly in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
If the financial autonomy actually comes to play, we, the populace, will be the better for it because it will affect governance. The legislature will be more courageous to make laws that will benefit the people without being afraid that the governor will sanction them for it or will prevent them from being re-elected.
Well, yes. Thank you.
That is what I think it should achieve. It's a good order in my view.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. And that, I think, is indeed the, as lawyers would put it, intention of the presidency, of the president in bringing this about. And indeed, the overall intention, because oftentimes you hear lawyers talking about trying to peek into the minds of the drafters of the Constitution. Oftentimes you hear them say, this is the intention of the drafters of the Constitution. Surely it was all about keeping the separation of power. But as Mr. George has also said, well, the political terrain in Nigeria is such that as you are coming up with one measure, people are spending sleepless nights trying to outdo you. And Mr. George illustrated there when he said that, look, okay, it's one thing to put all these systems in place, but what do you now do when the political actors or captains or godfathers or whatever else you want to call them, the power brokers, now teleguide who shall be there, who shall actually be doing our bidding. But perhaps too much power is, being arrogated or apportioned to them. Perhaps you can't really have that much control over people.
If you are talking about the state governors, yes, and it's good that the president is taking this initiative, but the president needs to do more because so many people are still seeing the president as being one of the most powerful presidents in the world. So we need, if truly the president, because if you notice, the actions of the president is as if it's tilting towards federalism that we have all been, clamoring for and shouting all this while. So let him go all out and see how we can, do this. Dr. Fassi. Dr. Fassi.
Yeah, with you.
Okay, good. I just want to ask, because the way the president is going is as if he's tilting towards true federalism, and that is what so many people are already saying. Do you share that same sentiment that is tilting towards federalism?
Well, I don't know what you infer by that. Personally, I think we are clear about what federalism should be. We are talking about fiscal federalism now.
Okay.
But unfortunately, because as we've been saying on this program, some of these governors are not interested in that. All they want to do is to control the pulse of the local government, to control the pulse of the judiciary in their state, and to control the pulse of the House of Assembly in their state. But fortunately, the constitution has taken care of the judiciary in the state. What we have not been able to take care of through constitutional amendment is the issue of local government and the House of Assembly. But, you see, my radical view would be that if we cannot guarantee autonomy financial autonomy for the local government, can we just have a constitutional amendment to scrap the local government so that we now know that the governors will just control their state, let them make or mar their state, the way they spend the money, and to that extent, everybody will be happy.
Okay.
But you cannot have a care of government that is not self-accounting, that cannot determine how it's going to spend its own money. Somebody will take it down in the state headquarters and be controlling the funds of the local government. And that is making a mockery of the third tier of government. And I think that's not good enough.
Okay. Well,
are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we were with you, Fassi, but I think we're going to have to sign off here because something happened to the lights in your office. And but I thank you very much for your time and for the sharing your perspective.
The light is back.
Okay, the lights have come back. Okay, so in rounding off, please. I think that was the NEPA strike. We don't have NEPA anymore, but you know what I mean. But what you've been saying, Fassi, is that you are in favor of this. It's going to be beneficial, indeed, as the presidency said, in deepening democracy. And you were just there commenting on.
The local government will not have any excuse not to perform.
Yeah.
Because as it is, the present situation is that there's always a buck passing. They pass the buck to the state government, and the local government will also pass the buck to the local government. So we are in a fix. We don't really know what is going on. All we know is that allocations to local governments are not being properly utilized. They are controlled mostly by the governor.
Okay.
Which should not be.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fassi Yusuf, lawyer and communications expert. Thank you very much for sir.
Thank you.
All right then. Okay. So as we were saying, Asuko, for some reason they're still talking about it. So it means that I don't know. Is contentious the word? Is the whole issue contentious? I said, if you're going to be simple folk who think that, what you see is what you get, but apparently they say in our society, the more you look, the less you see. And we were talking about Mr. George when he phoned in, said that, look, he just hopes that all of this can be can be made to work. And you yourself had actually asked our Judy when he was on whether there was the will to see this through. And it's all about people trying to not so much sabotage, but work around. People looking for workarounds. But I was just commenting that isn't that particular aspect of the conversation giving too much power to whoever the power brokers are? I mean, can you actually engineer an entire assembly that will be doing your bidding? Since now the whole objective is to give freedom, give autonomy to the assemblies, give autonomy to the judiciaries. So that I even saw something in there. I mean, so that the courts they can do capital projects befitting their status without having to go cap in hand to any governor who would have, as it were, become an intermediary. I thought,
Look, I think the most important arm of government, they are all important, but for this particular case, I think the judiciary, who happens to be the final hope and the last hope of the common man, should be given that independence, Now, if you look at it in most states, there are some state governors that even if the judiciary, they need anything, they have to go through the state governor, including even signing impress. Imagine a state governor signing impress for the judiciary.
Okay, we got a call from Benue State. Good morning, Mr. Manasseh.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Very well, thank you.
I think our president should be praised over the decision he has taken. It's good enough because it will deepen our democracy. It is not that these laws are not there. The laws have been there, except that they have not been activated. So now that Mr. Buhari has, stated that the law should be implemented and put to use, I think he should be praised rather than, trying to bring in issues that are nonsensical in nature. Because what is bad if our state legislatures and judiciary are independent? What is wrong about it? And it's a constitutional provision.
Yes.
I think the president should be praised rather than, calling him names and maybe trying
I don't think anybody is doing that. I don't think anybody is doing that. Nobody is calling the president names.
I was hearing some other channels. I was hearing some other contributions on TV and on other channels.
Oh, on other channels, not our station.
Were, trying to say something.
Okay.
Trying to give him names. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think, those who are against this, you will know that they are against our democratic development.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Manasseh, for calling in. Appreciate your view as well.
The thing is, the state governors have always demonstrated the attitude of being the Lord of Manor.
All of them, were they exceptions?
All of them.
Because simply the power, too much financial power was concentrated in their hands.
Yeah, exactly. Including even going as far as going down to the local government to even, dip their hands into their funds. And local government are the ones that we are supposed to first go before we even think about the state government.
I think Julie was mentioning that there are some areas where you have Ministry of Local Government. Again.
Yes.
So, you could see how...
if they have a ministry, it means that the state will still control the local government. Because it's the state governor that will say, okay, this ministry take so amount of money. But once it gets to this point now, which the president has done, I'm always concerned about the judiciary. Now with this, the judiciary, that particular arm of government can easily say, okay, fine, we want the state high court here. We want this for ourselves.
Yes, they can plan. They can plan because they have their own resources. Mazi Okoroafo in Arochukwu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sayori. Good morning, Tosu Kwame.
Good morning.
Honestly, Sayori, let me just tell the truth. What the president did order 10 is in good shape. It's very, very good for Nigeria to move forward. Now, look at. You ask yourself, all these porous borders, what happens? You know the local government. Now, if the local government people were autonomy of their own, that independence of a local government, it is the job because of the chairman of a local government, properly elected, not the appointment of this committee. You are independent, the chief executive of the local government. You just should cover up all those terrains, nothing like people moving. Now, at least the third tier of the government is directly to the people. They say people, now, you show up fertilizer for the farmers. But before you talk to Jack Robinson, everything comes from the governor. Governor will maybe 10 trailers. Governor will take 6 and give the local government 4. What will the local government chairman do before you talk to Jack Robinson? Bad names attached to the local government chairman. So right now, if the 10 trailers are the local government will now collect 10 trailers. 10 trailers directly to the local government. The local government chairman distributed. You see that's a massive production of food everywhere. Not a question of man, no man business. Special assistant this, special assistant food, special assistant water resource, special assistant. It will not happen. But the situation is that we are in a country where because of our level of illiteracy, we should continue complaining. There's nothing like complaining. Even the judiciary we are talking about, a minor case that's supposed to be said, go and discharged and acquitted. Because of the interest of the order above, what happened? You ran behind the counter, go to the Senate, before you talk down to, you see the number of people are waiting there, are waiting at there. When the judiciary is independent, they have their own money, they know what they want, everything will be
Their own salary too.
But a situation whereby one person sit down, one person no, the governors should just let them be confined with their own security votes. Let them eat that one and the money they collect from Abuja. Leave the judiciary and the local government, let them be autonomous, collect the money and do the job. You see, it will help the election.
Indeed.
Not a question of when the particular party will come, they will just carry everything overall, one particular party. But when the situation is independent of local government, nobody comes to the city. People know exactly what to do, not from the headquarters of the city. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Mazi. Perhaps another area of worry in terms of what Executive Order 2 is enabling now might be since this has come to stay, just going along those lines, then this will begin to attract to local government councils a higher caliber, a higher quality, because education, you know, and all the exposure and all of that is very, very important. Whereas the judiciary might not be encumbered in this regard. Tendency where some areas, I want us to be very, very delicate how one puts this, but you know, it's like people that somehow go in that direction and thought not to, you know, have the wherewithal to hold higher office, whereas in other climes, it is a very, very important tier of government.
Yes, exactly.
And you have intellectuals in there.
Yeah.
It's just that because of the way we think of things in this our own society, it's seen as shall we say the lower rung of the ladder. No, it's anything but. It's the closest to the people.
Exactly.
And it can there's immense power, immense influence in there. But all of that is not showing, given, shall we say, the caliber that some people have complained about, that you see generally in these local councils. And that's where the governors are able to, as it were, lord it over them. That's what the allegation is.
In other climes, you know, they know and they respect and they regard their local government chairman and even the state governors. Because
the caliber of people that that go in there.
Yes, because if you say you want to be my councillor, as small as councillor is, you know, if before you even say you want to be a councillor, you have to come to my house to knock and say I want to represent you.
There you go. So this is a good it's a good measure according to a lot of people. There are those who have not quite made up their mind. There are those who are saying that there's the option in there of governors going to court. The governors are meeting today, right?
Yes.
They'll be talking about a number of things. Included in that is this whole Executive Order 10.
Exactly.
So we'll see how they come out at the end of the day.
Yes, the courts are always open.
Indeed, indeed.
You know, so let them go. Let's see how, let them test the law.
Okay, we've got to wrap it up now. Thank you very much for staying with us on the program. And our thanks once again to Dr. Fasi Yusuf and Mr. Judy Ngelale of the presidency. And of course, you know, thank you for being out there and calling in and letting us know what you think about the subject matter. So please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. On behalf of Asuko, I'm Yori Folarin saying bye-bye for now.
Now joining me via Skype is Bolagade Iyola, Chairman, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Lagos Chapter. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Well, some other African countries have claimed some level of success in the usage of chloroquine as a treatment for COVID-19. Do you think that perhaps race, gender, and perhaps underlying health conditions might contribute to the efficacy on the use of hydroxychloroquine in the treatment of COVID-19?
You have said it all. Race is a big factor. And I want to tell you that, in Africa, being a subtropical region where malaria has been endemic, a good number of the population were already on chloroquine treatment before resting chloroquine in the early 2000s because of resistance to malaria parasite. So that could be because effectiveness of chloroquine in early stages of coronavirus could be our exposure to the drugs. But don't forget the fact that chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, by their nature, they are a drug that must be handled with care because of their effect on the heart. And again, because of the weather, the climate here too, it has not really made the infection to be as serious as it has been in the other climes.
All right. Now, on the other hand, there are concerns about the use of chloroquine. We have seen panic buying by some persons buying chloroquine. And if we are to adopt this in 3 to 4 months after the clinical trial is done, perhaps if it is adopted, how can we achieve a balance, ensuring that people do not abuse it?
Well, we still need to continue to, create awareness like this, that even the use of chloroquine must be well supervised by the doctor, it must be prescribed, and as of now, we must make sure that we don't allow the misuse that is very, very common with us in our side of the world. So basically, panic buying will not be the case because, will not be the case because you are not sure yet whether the person that wants to take chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine is already infected with the virus, because the virus comes with symptoms that are very similar to what we are really usually affected with in this side of the world. Malaria, typhoid, and what have we.
All right, so let's leave the conversation now. Bolagade Yola, thank you for speaking with us. All right, it's Children's Day today, and this year's commemoration is a different one. There are no programs or activities to make the day memorable. Schools are closed and children are forced to stay at home in obedience to lockdown directives by the federal and state governments. The task of keeping them engaged in the areas of education, sports and leisure now rests largely on parents. It is Children's Day and they must be made to feel special, whether there is a lockdown or not. Joining me via Skype to discuss children engagement is Dr. Princess Olufemi Kayode, child protection specialist and criminal justice psychologist. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, the circumstances surrounding this year's celebration of Children's Day is quite different. But talk to us, how, from your assessment so far, how COVID-19 has impacted the lives of children, especially their welfare.
Oh, COVID-19 outbreak has actually impacted so much on children, particularly their lifestyle. They're used to spending certain hours in school, spend certain hours at home, but now they're all confined within, a space. And then for those who are not used to being online, virtual school is what is happening for some, and that is for some, not even for the majority of children. Majority of children are not in school or accessing any educational materials at all. So what we see here now, we have children who have never experienced pandemic, like most of us adults of this generation have never experienced anything that would keep us forced to stay within a particular space. And so managing children and attending to their welfare has been a Herculean task for even both parents and as well as for the country.
All right. So from what you have said now, is it important then to engage them in situations like this?
It is very important to engage them because children who are used to a particular pattern, suddenly everything changes, and within the past 3 months, they are forced to experience what they are not used to, and even keeping them engaged in terms of play, learn, and manage 24 hours without really stepping out of the house has been very, very interesting for parents. Some of them actually have been learning how to do extracurricular activities like learn to cook, learn to write different softwares for those who could access virtual space for trainings and learnings. And then now for others, it's just been work, play, maybe clean the house, assist your parents at home, and then clean the house. It's not really so much fun for children. They can't access other children. Yes, that limited space is there, but their own immediate environment. And psychologically wise, this is not really so good for them. And all they do is see their parents or they watch television. That is just, it's a routine that has become somehow like as if they are in prison, if I could use the word.
All right, so we'll leave the conversation here now. Dr. Princess Olufemi Kayode, thank you so much for speaking with us. So right now we will be looking at some of the topics that has been trending over time, and we are focusing on what WHO has said. This is saying that it is suspending the use of hydroxychloroquine for treatment of COVID-19. And joining me to talk about this is Barrister, moving on rather, the National Assembly has denied allegations of corruption leveled against its committees by the Niger Delta Development Commission. And joining me via Skype to talk about this is lawyer and social development advocate Jide Ologun. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. You must have been following developments with the NDDC. 19 years now, the battle for the soul of the NDDC has been raging. And now we have seen the recent development, especially with regards to allegations of monies up to 40 billion being allegedly stolen there. Talk to us what you make of this.
It's quite disturbing, particularly when this is connected to development. We have all been clamoring for the development of Nigeria. And when you have situations where projects are smuggled in, where resources that are meant for the development are diverted corruptly by some human beings entrusted to carry out the development, then there is a need to call on justice. And what I mean by justice is that one of the key promises of this present regime towards the 2015 election, in fact, the major reason that gave a leeway was to fight corruption. And this is not a strange thing. If you look at Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it says that the state shall abolish corruption and every form of abuse of office. And so the mandate is already there. And we have always said it, if you carry out your investigations and some are indicted in the process, why don't you run them through prosecution and let there be consequences? But in situations where we don't allow consequences and we just pay lip service to this effort, we may not achieve the required result, because whether we like it or not, the same region will start complaining that there's no development. So I think the burden is on the government to do the needful.
So invariably, what you're saying is the government's handling of the situation at the NDDC over the years is what has given room for all of what we are seeing happening now.
Definitely. You see, if there are no consequences, if people believe that they can commit crime and go away, whether because of their influence within the system or because they can manipulate the processes or because the structure itself is not efficient, they continue. That is what we call reinforcement theory in industrial psychology. Whatever you can prevent that you don't prevent will get worse. Does it not amaze you that there is a report that my great nation has spent about $20 billion in the last 21 years to sort out the power problems that we have, and yet we still have this terrible electricity power profile in the country that is hindering us from moving forward and stepping into prosperity. And that is why we are the capital of poverty. But on the other side of the coin, you find individuals who are so wealthy, they can buy up a whole state within the system. So, and when you allow these corrupt elements to operate without consequences, then you are reinforcing crime. And that is my position. But if you deal with them, then they repent. And those who can go into such practices later will also not venture in. I want to give you a brilliant example. We know either in Saudi Arabia, there is zero tolerance for drug trafficking. And some may say that their penalties are too harsh, but that is what they want. Indonesia also says we don't want drug in our communities. So it depends on what you condone. But by and large, even though the government came out with a strong intention and promise to fight corruption, I believe by content analysis, by our researches, by our engagement, that we still have an incredible, sustained level of corruption in this country.
But the interim management committee, through some of its members, has come out to say that or deny these allegations, that they haven't even awarded any contract except for the intervention funds, especially for the COVID-19. That is the only thing that they have done since they took up that position.
What have we not denied in Nigeria? When Babachi Lawal was alleged to have spent millions of naira cutting grass, he denied it. They always denied it. You remember the Ikoyi gate? It was denied. There is a recent one that about 7 billion naira was spent in buying an uncompleted building. All these things are denied. And that is the place of intelligent investigation. In the criminal justice value chain, you need intelligent investigation, you need diligent prosecution, and a committed judiciary. But I have always said it, where there is a way, where there is a will rather, there is a way. My sister, were we not all in this country by the grace of God when the Ganduje gate came out, where we saw videos where the governor was collecting dollars and packing in his parachute? Were all these things not denied? So it's not about denial. Denial is one of the responses in crisis management. It is all these denials that has brought us to becoming the capital of poverty in the world. Nigeria has enough resources to be the greatest nation in the world. And my position is that as long as we handle these matters with kids' gloves, we are going nowhere. But if we must make progress as a nation, we must allow the law to run its course, and we must allow justice. We were taught in the law school that justice should not only be done, but clearly seem to have been done.
Absolutely, and that's where I want to take you up on. Two questions in one. What do you think that the Niger Deltans have done enough to ensure that the essence for the NDDC, why it was put in place in the first place, is brought to light? Plus, what will be justice being seen to be done, especially for the Niger Deltans, ensuring that justice is done for those people?
I've said it, my sister. The Constitution is clear that the state shall abolish, the meaning of abolish, to eradicate corruption and abuse of office. And these are the two elements. We have the ICPC, we have the EFCC, we have all the paraphernalias of justice in the country to deal with this matter. And again, one other thing I should bring to the light here is that towards the 2015 election, there was a promise to shift the burden of proof in the criminal justice towards fighting corruption from the prosecutor to the accused, because we have this presumption of innocence under the Constitution that an accused person is presumed innocent until the case is proved beyond all reasonable doubt. But that has not been done till now. So if you make it easy for the accused to maneuver and lobby their ways out, you're not helping the nation. If we must fight corruption, let us fight corruption. But by and large, the impact of corruption will always run its course if we fail to fight corruption. But I am saying, and that is my position and submission, that the mandate of fighting corruption is constitutionally posited in the government.
All right, let's leave the conversation here for now, for want of time. Thank you so much, Jide Ologun, for speaking with us.
Talking business news, it is on now for the third time in a row, Dangote Group has emerged as the most admired African brand. According to a statement from Dangote, Africa's best brand survey and rankings have established themselves as the most authoritative survey, analysis and metric of brands in Africa. Founder and chairman of Brand Africa and Brand Leadership, Thebe Ikaleveng, during an online interactive session, says that African brands have an important role in helping to build the image competitiveness and transforming the continent's promise into real change. The Group Chief Corporate Communications Officer of Dangote Group, Anthony Chiejina, in his reaction also said the company had a long-standing reputation for quality, relevance, compliance and social stewardship. African brands only occupy about 13 of the 100 entries, 7 less from 2019.